Good afternoon. Well, this weekend the big match has made a trip to the seaside at both ends of the country. In the far northeast, the passing North Sea traffic, almost within hailing distance of Roker Park, where Sunderland face Queen's Park Rangers, and that's our feature match today. And then down on the south coast, the sun glinting off the sea as Brighton and Hove Albion face Manchester City in what's a very important second division game there. And we go to Scotland. A burst of goals from the Premier Division as Dundee United face St Mirren. First, though, to Roker Park, and things are looking up for Sunderland. They're having a good run, and in spite of torrential rain here in the northeast for almost 24 hours, a good crowd of 16,400 turned up for this match against Queen's Park Rangers. Commentator Martin Tyler.
There's an extra edge to the Roker Roar these days. The sense of expectation for these proud and knowledgeable supporters in the northeast, sharpened by a Sunderland run of just one defeat in the last 12 league and cup games. It's a new era for Sunderland under manager Len Ashurst, who's brought 9 new players to the club, 2 of whom, Gary Bennett and Clive Walker, return today. The former club captain, Ian Atkins, has been sold to Everton this morning, but for one face out, a new, though familiar one, is back. Stan Cummins named as substitute at the start of his second spell at Roker Park. Alan Mullery's respect for the competitiveness of the new Sunderland has meant changes in the Queen's Park Rangers midfield. Mike Fillery, after injury, and Gary Mecklewhite are recalled, and Gary Waddock, who reappeared in the Milk Cup on Tuesday, is back in the First Division for the first time since breaking an ankle in April. And the man in charge this afternoon is Norman Wilson from Morecambe in Lancashire. The Rangers kick off, and you have to go back to 1956 to find when Sunderland last finished a season in the top half of the First Division. Well, they're in 8th place today, which is one reason for the new optimism in these parts. And a back pass intercepted by Gary Bannister, played by David Hodgson. And Gary Bannister, who turned down Sunderland to join Queen's Park Rangers in the summer, was almost presented with a chance inside the opening 30 seconds from a lax back pass from David Hodgson. Sunderland have experimented this season already with various systems. They've often played with 3 central defenders, but not today, without Gordon Chisholm because of a family bereavement. And they've lost Steve Berry from their midfield because of illness. Further from his hands, over Bannister. Wild, pushed in the back by Fenwick. I think the Sunderland players didn't hear the whistle. It was an opportunity for the referee to play an advantage. Here's Pickering. Walker giving width on the left again. Neat play by Walker, and the dummy from Wild. Crowd lifted by the early run from Walker. It was a useful looking cross. Roger Wild might have gone to play it. At the last minute let it run. There was no one arriving for Sunderland behind him. And Walker on that occasion couldn't control. There will be plenty of slipping and sliding. Here's Bannister. And Chris Turner in the end diving to make sure his post was covered. Bennison. Or Peter Daniel. Sunderland at the moment just trying to draw Rangers out. Daniel. Wild couldn't change direction. Gregory. And the booking on Elliott. Sean Gregory has his name taken on a ground where he was sent off last season, last March in fact. really lunged in, Gregory, and was clearly late. Wild. And Wicks, as Hooker came off his line. Hodgson. Now, was that a penalty? No, says the referee. Steve Wicks was the defender. From this vantage point, it looked as though Hodgson was ready to fall at the merest contact. He's disappointed. The referee had a view of the incident through a rather crowded penalty area. As Wicks went in, Hodgson went down, no penalty. Stainrod. Well, it was a fall that was pure vaudeville in the realms of knockabout comedy, but it's brought a free kick to Queen's Park Rangers. And you can hear what the crowd thought of the referee's decision. There's always a touch of the theatricals about Simon Stainrod's work. Gregory doing the pointing. Fillery, hands on hips. Fenwick, the number 6. So what can Queen's Park Rangers come up with here? Micklewhite over the ball. Wicks has arrived on the far post. Fenwick is there as well. Gregory takes, and Fenwick, and Stainrod. Terry Fenwick, Stainrod was finally denied. Terry Fenwick diving in. We'll remember that he settled this fixture last season, but with an own goal on that occasion. But his header was way off target, and Stainrod could make nothing of the ball as it broke loose. Good run by Hodgson. Wild gone to the near post. Wicks ahead of him. In fact, I don't think was aware of the presence of Roger Wild. Rather unnecessary corner conceded from the Queen's Park Rangers viewpoint. Daniel, Proctor and Wild, who is something of an artful dodger in opposing penalty areas. That was typical Roger Wild, really. All touches and flicks around goal, and a prodigious scoring record in the lower divisions. The back heel didn't quite come off for him then. Bennett. Now Proctor. Gregory. And offside Waddock. The two managers on the right, Len Ashurst, whose first game in charge of Sunderland was against Queen's Park Rangers last March. Alan Mullery on the left, who was the Crystal Palace manager, who took Stan Cummins to London from Roker Park in 1983. Fenwick. Only Stainrod forward, and confusion between Elliott and Stainrod, with Bannister's help in the end. But confusion between Elliott and Turner. And Queen's Park Rangers, who have been under the collar for much of this first half, with 5 minutes of it remaining, very nearly snatched the lead that really they wouldn't have deserved. But Elliott wasn't aware of Turner's positioning. Bannister and Stainrod were looking to pounce. And finally, it was Sunderland who cleared their lines. Solid header by Fenwick. Neil with an eye on Walker. Queen's Park Rangers, of course, know all about Clive Walker. His days at Chelsea. Pickering. Gale allowed to go on when Rangers hesitated, and Wild! Courtesy of a tragic slip by Peter Hucker. First of all, Rangers thought that Howard Gale was offside, but there was no flag. But even then, Hucker should have hung on. Roger Wild said, "Thank you very much." So Roger Wild, who's had to wait until past his 30th birthday to appear in the First Division, is adjusting to life at the higher standard. He came here for £15,000 from Sporting Lisbon, in fact, where he spent one season. But he'll not get an easier goal, whatever the level he plays. And Sunderland in front, 2 minutes from half-time. Is the player down. We're getting a fairly unsympathetic bound from the Sunderland crowd. But the half-time whistle has gone meanwhile, and Sunderland go in with a lead that they've had to work really hard to get. It came from Roger Wild. Queen's Park Rangers will certainly have a say about an offside decision that wasn't given, but if you play that way, it'll go against you sometimes. But at half-time at Roker Park, it's Sunderland 1, Queen's Park Rangers 0. The crowd, who'd been unsympathetic to Simon Stainrod as he went down right on the half-time whistle, see the Queen's Park Rangers striker out in full working order for the start of the second half. Sunderland attacking the goal to the left, 1 goal to the good. And here's Clive Walker. Free kick given against Micklewhite on Nick Pickering. Daniel. Rangers look to push out again. Elliott was lucky, no doubt about that. He turned his head away from the ball and it struck him on the back. Wild. Here's Gale. And Proctor. Now, can Gale swing a shot in? Here he can! And Hucker somewhat redeeming his earlier mistake. Just a little touch forward by Mark Proctor. Gale continued the battling and then let fly. Hucker flung up the arms and got the ball over the top. Walker looking to swing the corner in. Hodgson could make no contact with it. Bennett. And it'll reach Walker again. He's got a better angle to play it in. Wild is there again. It's Roger Wild's goal, I think. Even he's not sure. They go to Walker, understandably, because it was old-fashioned wing play here. Get to the byline and get your cross in. That was the message. Now, what exactly happened was that Wicks, I think, met it with Wild. They've announced the goal here for Wild. Certainly you'll find it hard to take it away from a player who's already got 1 goal and will think himself now that he's on a hat-trick. But it looked as though Wicks had the final touch. It's 2-0. And we're 7 minutes into the second half. And the Sunderland mood is buoyant again. Hodgson has rarely been challenged. Over Hodgson. Stopped by Waddock, kept in play by Dawes, and Stainrod again holding the ball up well. Micklewhite. But Proctor, a real tiger in the tackle. Walker. Now Bannister. The Rangers ship in danger of being sunk without trace at the moment, and it's Pickering. Shots are coming in from all angles, from all players at the moment. Pickering, it didn't quite dip enough for him. And Queen's Park Rangers want to make a substitution. They're taking off Mike Fillery. And John Byrne, the striker recently signed from York City, comes on with 10 minutes played in the second half for his second appearance in the First Division. Again, Waddock fit in. Sean Elliott. Now Walker. Looking to attack Neil again. He might reach Hodgson. Thought about taking it first time. Wild! He does have a knack of getting shots in when there are defenders sliding in around him. Had one thought perhaps about striking a shot first time at goal, then set up Wild. Bannister. Here's Byrne. It'll come for Micklewhite, who really should have done much better. Gary Micklewhite, who's just been switched to the left-hand side with the substitution, with Mike Fillery going off. And it was the substitute, John Byrne, who played him through. But it was a wild slice. Dawes. Bennett. Sunderland keeping them at arm's length at the moment, but here's Byrne. Done well, and Stainrod, Gregory is there. The ball's still in play, and Gregory's more concerned with arguing with the referee. Dawes has a shot. Waddock, and finally it's a goal kick. But in that scramble at the far post, John Gregory was certain that Queen's Park Rangers should have had a penalty. Good play by Byrne, and Stainrod was there. Now there was a hand used and Gregory saw it, I think by David Hodgson. No shortage of incident or talking point in this game. Proctor. Daniel. Here's Hodgson. Probing run by David Hodgson, and a marvellous goal. What a week it's been for him. His first goal for the club in the Milk Cup on Wednesday night, and his first goal for them in the First Division. And what a splendid one too. But only minutes after he might have been adjudged to have handled at the other end, he took Queen's Park Rangers on and slipped the ball past Hucker. We're midway through the second half. It's Sunderland 3, Queen's Park Rangers 0. And 2 goals for David Hodgson in a week in which he's also celebrated his 24th birthday. Len Ashurst now down at touchline level on the extreme right at the Sunderland bench, talking to his coach Frank Burrows. Proctor. Sunderland's throw. Wild. Gale is allowed to go on. Well, the linesman waved play on, but the referee overruled him and gave him offside. Howard Gale didn't seem too concerned, but the linesman clearly thought Gale was all right. The ball ends up in the Queen's Park Rangers net, but referee Norman Wilson rules no goal. And a big cheer now, which will greet the return of Stan Cummins. Spent almost 4 years here in his first spell. He's been away since the summer of 1983, and it's something of the return of the prodigal son. He left in rather acrimonious circumstances, but he's back in place now of Howard Gale, and given the last quarter of an hour. Play restarts with a free kick to Queen's Park Rangers, taken by Gregory. Burr has done well since coming on, and you can see why Alan Mullery has invested in the potential of John Byrne. He's only 23. Daniel. Here's Cummins. And again. Proctor and Wilde in the middle. Venison. Sunderland indulging a spot of keeping the ball. Daniel, though, trying to change that with a purposeful break. And robbed of his first goal for Sunderland by the save of the match from Peter Hucker. Well, there was only one thought in Peter Daniel's mind when he got the ball, and that was to go forward, and the deflection was the reason that the save was so good. Off Wicks. And as the final whistle goes, another step forward in the Roker revival. Queen's Park Rangers beaten here again, just as they were back in March when Len Ashurst took charge of Sunderland for the first time. And what a difference the new manager has made. A goal from Roger Wilde in the first half, one he might claim in the second half, but seemed to me to go in off Steve Wicks. And then the goal of the match from David Hodgson wrapping up the victory. The final score at Roker Park, it's Sunderland 3, Queen's Park Rangers 0.
So the Roker run continues. One defeat now in 13 games and a win that has taken Sunderland to 7th in the First Division. They really look as though they mean business. Although Queen's Park Rangers travelled back south last night, convinced that they were denied a penalty when the score was 2-0. Manager Alan Mullery said afterwards, of course it was a penalty when David Hodgson handled. Well, let's have a look at that now. As the cross came in, we'll see quite clearly there that David Hodgson there punched the ball away, but Alan was even more furious with John Gregory for chasing the referee. He should have been looking for the loose ball to try and score, he said. Well, one less contentious point we have to clear up. Who did score that second Sunderland goal? Could it really have been Roger Wilde?
Well, it was a corner, I think, and it came over to the far post, and I jumped. I got a touch on it, and the next thing it was in the net. I jumped up with a few players, and the lads were congratulating me. So it was, as far as I was concerned, I scored.
Quite clearly, our pictures show that Steve Wicks got a good solid header behind you.
Well, I definitely got a touch somewhere along the line, whether it was before or after he got a header in. But like I said to the lads, they were pulling the leg after the match, and I saw the game last week against Forest and Liverpool, and Ian Rush scored a goal which clearly went off the defender. So I mean, if Ian Rush can claim them, I'm going to claim them.
I think there's no doubt that Len Asher says it's your goal already.
Yeah, well, I've been fighting it in the dressing room, and I mean, if strikers do, that's the way.
Well, Roger's quite a character, as you can see, but I'm afraid the slow motion camera there does say quite clearly, own goal. I'm sure, though, that a little thing like that isn't going to stop Roger Wilde still saying, my goal.
Gale allowed to go on when Rangers hesitated, and Wilde! Courtesy of a tragic slip by Peter Hucker. And it'll reach Walker again. He's got a better angle to play it in. Wilde is there again. It's Roger Wilde's goal, I think. Even he's not sure. Here's Hodgson. And a probing run by David Hodgson. And a marvellous goal.